everybody. Welcome back to Ross and Wizzy's Fan Fiction Power Hour. I'm your host, Ross Pitt, Shark Hunter, and this is my co-host, the absolutely wonderful, conservative, just hardcore, right-wing Wizzy Puff. How you doing, Wizzy?
Hello, I'm Wizzy Puff. I voted for Bush in 2008.
If you're wondering, yes, Wizzy was old enough to vote in 2008. Yeah, I was originally going to do something for me and you there, but then I accidentally did me as just, I'm Ross Pitt. Whoops. Perhaps we'll get something next episode.
I'm going to find out about Ross's centrist ideologies.
Maybe. Who knows? So, Wizzy Puff. Wizzy, my man. I am so excited that we are going to be reading Something About Midnights by Eva Lilly. And do you know why I'm excited?
Why are you excited?
Because this episode has been like 2 or so months in the making. We just kept putting it off. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I think that this one looks really good. And you know what? If you also think that this looks really good, you should also go down into the description and read it yourself. Very good idea there. And then you can come back and listen to us be wacky and stuff. But if you don't want to, if you're like, oh, blind or something, you can always just give it a thumbs up. That's cool too. I guess that's all I needed to do. Woo! All right. So this is Something About Midnights by Eva Lilly. Oh, it's also tagged Equestria Girls, Profanity, Mystery, Sunset Shimmer, Midnight Sparkle, and Side-Twi. So if you have a phobia of any of those things, feel free to dip out now.
Who doesn't have a phobia of sci-fi, honestly?
Yeah. Chapter of Alarm Clocks and False Alarms. There was light on behind her roommate's door. But of course that wasn't unusual. Sunset had to remind herself. Far from it. It was 3 a.m, and she had class tomorrow, and she'd had to pass her roommate's bedroom to get to the bathroom, and her roommate happened to be the one and only Twilight Sparkle, the girl who apparently never slept. And that was only the second strangest thing about her. The clatter of Twilight's keyboard echoed throughout the hallway. Sunset flushed the toilet to drown it out, then scrunched her eyes shut in the dark of the bathroom and lathered her hands under the faucet with water cold as ice.
It's just the moving out nerves,
she reasoned.
She needs some time to settle in here, that's all.
She shut the water off and dried her hands on her pajama pants.
Probably. Hopefully.
Because no matter how stubborn or determined or desperate you were, everyone had to sleep eventually. Everyone. From party animals to washed-up gifted kids, to panicky and manicky teachers' pets, and to strange shut-in geniuses like her. Yeah, I remembered it this time. They'd had a less than stellar introduction, all things considered. Not that Sunset thought about it too much, about what she could have done differently, about what she should have done differently if she hadn't overslept the day her new roommate moved in. Okay, so I don't think she knows Twilight.
Oh, okay.
Or at least doesn't know her from the movies, hijinks. So I'm guessing this is an alternate universe.
In Equestria Girls, did she actually become roommates with Sunset?
I imagine they would have eventually.
Okay, so that never actually happened?
Nope. Dude, they're still kids.
That's a crime. What? But they could have been in a boarding school. Classic
but they weren't.
kids show scenario.
Like, maybe if it had gone on a bit longer, they could have ended up in one, but they didn't.
Should have happened. Would have been a great scenario.
Dude, I just wish that Equestria Girls could have gotten a proper ending, or like a sequel series where they moved in together, like that. That would have been great.
Like Hannah Montana Forever, but My Little Pony.
Yes. They'd had a less than stellar introduction, all things considered. Not that Sunset thought about it too much, about what she could have done differently, about what she should have done differently if she hadn't overslept the day her new roommate moved in. Put some pants on, probably. Brush your hair.
Contact lenses are pretty high up there, too.
But no matter how hard she thought, or didn't think, about it, she couldn't do anything to change what she'd already done. And if that meant her first meeting with Twilight Sparkle came prepackaged with bedhead and blurry vision and boxer shorts, then Sunset Shimmer was going to have to learn to deal.
I'm so fucking sorry.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, that's just how I read that word, that sentence.
Rest in peace, this author's work.
I'm so fucking sorry.
She'd said when she finally unlocked the front door.
It's not that I forgot you were coming today. I got everything ready for you last night. But I guess I didn't plug my phone in properly because the battery died, and my alarm didn't go off, and...
Her rambles had trailed off to a silence she so clearly remembered even a week later. Though it hadn't been memorable because it was quiet. Rather, it had been the loudest and most deafening silence that Sunset had ever heard. It was thunder incarnate, an ear-splitting roar. It was the girl who'd stood petrified on her front porch. It was her terrified, wide-eyed stare. It was silence. Sunset had said slowly, and broke it.
You good?
Uh-huh. Her new roommate, the one and only Twilight Sparkle, had visibly flinched at that. What? Oh, yeah, yes, I'm... She hesitated. Fine.
Yo, is this gonna be a freaking sunlight fic?
Wow. These two just step into a room together and Wizzy's like, oh, baby, here it comes.
Did you see how she...
Here it comes.
No, how she's like staring at her, and then she's like all silent until she's like, you good? That's a classic romance scene.
You know what it's also a classic scene of? Cannibalism. She might be a cannibal in this one.
Isn't that like an equestrian thing for love, though, right? Because, like, the lovers eat each other?
No, that's...
I'm holding out hope.
I'm trying to
I'm
think
holding
of
out hope.
a thing that actually would have that, but no, I can't think of anything. Praying mantises? But I don't think they love each other.
I think it's black widows, actually.
Do they love each other?
Oh, that's a good question. How do you measure love?
So I know that praying mantises eat... the lady praying mantises eat the male's head.
Okay.
Anyways, who's to say what bugs feel?
But we know how these two feel.
We really don't. I think that's the mystery part of this. And at the time, Sunset had somehow shrugged it off and returned to her half-hearted excuses, desperate to salvage what little she could of her pride. It hadn't been the place to ask questions. Not in the doorframe of her little rental with a mountain of luggage piled right at the foot of her porch. Not then.
Great.
She said, instead of,
I don't think you are, actually.
That's great.
a pause.
Here. Is it cool if I help you with your bags?
That's great. Twilight had echoed in response. Yeah, great. What if this Twilight is Side Twi from the regular Equestria Girls universe, but this isn't that Sunset? Or rather, this isn't the Sunset that we know. What if that's it? And that's why Twilight's acting so weird, because she's like, oh, this is my friend, but it's not my friend. See what I'm saying? I'm smart.
That would be so freaky.
Yeah.
And then she starts dating her anyway because she's like, second chance.
Scandal. I don't think
It's
that's
just like when
Mhm.
I was gonna say it's just like in Celestia Code when Jigsaw, spoiler alert, when Jigsaw had the shapeshifter turn into Twilight.
Ah, damn. Speaking of that, though, actually not that. Actually, none of that. I don't think that's what this is because this is. It just doesn't seem like that's the twist. It seems like the twist will be a bit darker than that, but I don't know for certain, of course.
Hmm.
That just seems like a wacky twist.
Well, it
For a
isn't tagged
two-grade thing.
horror, gore, or anything, so
Yeah, but it's
at least she's not doing anything like that.
that twist I would make it a bit more of a lighthearted thing, but maybe they can twist it around to make that a bit better. That's great. Twilight had echoed in response. Yeah, great. Her gaze had burned relentless on Sunset's back when she'd led the way inside. And so Twilight had moved in. And so Twilight had moved in, and Sunset had put on pants. And it was only after they'd both settled back down in their respective rooms that first night that Sunset had finally let a question form in the front door worm its way into her thoughts.
Why the hell did she look like she'd just seen a ghost?
Okay, this is how you salvage it. Okay, Twilight Sparkle killed Sunset. I hope that didn't happen in this, but, Sunset Enjoyer. Twilight Sparkle killed Sunset from Equestria. And so this is the new the sunset from here. And so to her, she did see a ghost. Ooh, it's like, I can't say the name of it because that would be spoilers. Never mind.
It's gonna be like scenes with her like tearfully having a conversation with Sunset where she's like, man, I really missed these times. And Sunset doesn't get it.
Oh. Man, that just happens to me all the time.
With ghosts or with real people?
Both.
Yo?
I guess with real people more, I interact with them more, but,
You have ghost powers and you didn't tell me?
Not really powers. It's more of a curse thing, but yeah.
Is it like a cursed object?
No. It's just I'm cursed, I guess.
Oh.
See, there was this witch when I was born, and, well, we have to keep reading that. We don't need to go through that. It was the little things at first. Tiny, insignificant clues that only when added together could dare point at something more. She tried her best to be civil, obviously. Sunset had lived with all sorts of roommates during her first year of college, and some insomniac freshman was nothing compared to numbers 3 or 5. Ugh, yuck. But civility was pretty difficult to practice when she never saw her roommate at all. Sunset's standard playbook of small talk in the kitchen or brief hellos when arriving home went out the window on day one. Man, what if the author is listening to this? And that is the twist that I had that I thought up. And they were like, "Oh man, this twist is gonna get people it's gonna be so surprising." Although I guess mystery doesn't technically equal there has to be a twist, but I think that's gonna be the twist. And yeah, the author's just like, "Oh baby, they're not gonna know what hits them." And then I guess that's stupidly in like the first 2 seconds an accident. I've been getting really good with that, by the way. Just
if you're the
guessing
author at
random
that
stuff.
point, I think you just have to be I think you'd have to be like impressed,
Yeah, but what if this author is really petty?
Just like gets us DMCA'd for this.
I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I would be. DMCA is a lot of work.
You've gone through a DMCA?
Oh God, have I ever? Again,
All right.
related to the curse, but not enough time to get into that now.
You're telling me a lot of stories after this ends. Sorry, audience, you guys don't get to hear anything about it.
Sorry, but we have a podcast to do. Sunset's standard playbook of small talk in the kitchen or brief hellos when arriving home went out the window on day one. the one and only day Twilight Sparkle could teleport, apparently, considering Sunset had yet to see her leave her room. Hell, the only reason she knew her roommate wasn't rotting into her bedroom floorboards was the occasional buzz of the coffee grinder at way too early o'clock.
So Sci-Twi can teleport, right?
No. Not that we know.
What?
Her only power is levitation. Well, she can't levitate, but she can make things levitate.
Sci-Twi was the
Telekinesis,
not Princess Twilight Sparkle, right?
Correct.
Okay, I got them mixed up.
That's okay. I don't blame you on this one. This one, that's fair. I get it.
And so mysterious.
So mysterious. And the incessant, never-ending click-clack of her keyboard from midnight until dawn. At least, until what Sunset assumed was dawn. She never managed to stay up long enough to hear it stop. The days passed in a blur. Also, this just sounds like my roommates at Disney. For those of you who don't know, I went to the Disney college program. And we basically never saw each other.
Oh my
Someone
God.
was always
They
at
use
work.
coffee grinders?
No.
Aw, man. That would have been really uncanny.
That would have been.
This is how I imagine you and me will be as roommates.
Oh my
Except
gosh.
Instead of
That'll definitely
studying,
happen.
I'm going to be gaming.
Oh, God. You just don't have a job. You're just lazing off my couch. Yeah, roommates. I'm kidding. I'm not getting a job. The days passed in a blur of boring classes and clacking keyboards. Eventually, after days and nights and weeks, Sunset figured she'd had enough evidence to assume her roommate's routine was something like this.
1. Leave room. Make coffee, usually before 6 a.m. Evidence? Coffee grinders are excellent alarm clocks. 2. Get ready while coffee brews. The fan from her bathroom is usually still going when I wake up. Sometimes the sound of water running messes with my dreams. 3. Leave house, probably between 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., likely for classes. Except for weekends, that's the only time she's still here when I wake up. 4. Return from class, probably at ?
Oh, God, I hate that time.
Yeah. She's always home when I get back, at least. So before 4 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and before 5 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Note to self, find out what the hell her major is, and cross-reference the schedules for the first-year courses.
It's actually magical studies, weirdly enough. Didn't even know we had that major.
They have that in the Equestria Girls world?
No.
Aww.
But they would have to, at some point, someone in, like, people all around would have to figure out that there's some magical bullshit going on, and magical studies will have to become a thing.
It's probably going to become a branch of archaeology because they're like artifacts that they use for their magic, right?
Yeah, probably.
5. Lock self in room. She's got the master bedroom with the ensuite, so at least she's not pissing in bottles. All her food's in the fridge or the pantry in the kitchen, though does she only eat if she's sure I'm not around? 6. Get ready for bed, usually after 1 a.m. I usually hear water running after I'm already in bed. Maybe she waits for me to go to bed first? I should keep an eye on that. I've never seen her light turn off. Note to self, figure out a way to plug that gap under my bedroom door. 7. Don't go to bed? Why does she get ready for bed but never commit? Why the hell does she have so much shit to work on every single night? Why doesn't she sleep? And why doesn't she ever get tired?
The end of Sunset's pencil snapped before she could finish the last word.
Damn it.
Is it spelled like that? D-A-M-N-I-T? I've always spelled it D-A-M-M-I-T.
I think you could really do anything when it comes to things like that, you know?
And yes, of course, I do know, for the audience, I do know that it's D-A-M-N, but, you know.
There's never really a chance that you use words like that formally, so, you know, you could spell it anyway.
Yeah, sure, I guess. That's a fair point. She scowled down at the list scrawled in her notebook where her combinatorics assignment should have been, and tossed her pencil at the foot of her bed with an irritated huff.
Tired,
she finished in her head. She leaned back against her pillow and glared daggers up at her bedroom ceiling in the too dim past midnight light.
She never sleeps, but she never gets tired either.
Oh, I feel that, baby. I haven't slept in days. It's killing me. I
It's
hate
the
my life.
coffee that's working for Twilight, and it's the insomnia that works for you?
Yeah, probably. I actually have been getting pretty good sleep the past, I guess, week. But before that, I wasn't. I was getting pretty bad sleep. In fact, I think in the last episode I made a reference to the fact that I haven't slept in weeks, but I might have cut that out, and I can't remember. And that was the strangest thing about Twilight Sparkle. Well, only if it were true.
But it's not.
Sunset thought as loudly as she could.
It's impossible.
Nothing's impossible when you have magic.
Is that what Star Swirl the Bearded sounds like?
No. Very
Aw.
far from it, but I wish that this ancient mythical being who was so mysterious comes back from purgatory, in which he was trapped in for thousands of years, and went, "Oh, hello there, everybody. How
He's
are
the
we
most
today?
magical of them all.
Oh, boy, howdy."
It's like the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland.
Precisely. Because no matter how stubborn or determined or desperate you were, everyone had to sleep eventually, and Sunset refused to rest until she caught her roommate in the act. God damn it, Sunset, maybe she's just a vampire, you piece of shit. Or maybe she's Peter Parker when he has the symbiote. I can't remember if that's a thing in the comics, but in some versions it makes him unable to sleep. I think that is a thing in the Raimi version, though.
Oh.
At the very least, that's the one you're all familiar with. The lesser version. There was a light on behind Twilight Sparkle's door, but that wasn't the unusual part that night. Rather, when Sunset groggily dragged herself out of bed past midnight with a scratchy throat screaming from thirst, she stepped into the hallway and came face to face with light.
Huh.
She thought. Her eyes adjusted.
Her door's open.
Run! Sunset felt her senses wake while she tiptoed down the hall. Still half asleep, or maybe a quarter at that point, she passed by the person in the living room without a second thought, taking a right into the kitchen to grab a mug from the cupboard and fill it at the sink. It was only after her second cup of tap water that the pieces began to click.
Her door was open. She's not in her room. Someone's sitting on the floor of the living room right now.
And Sunset reminded herself as she placed her empty mug beside the sink. Considering her roommate was the one and only Twilight Sparkle, there was also only one person that someone could be. If she'd been a little more prepared for their impromptu meeting, Sunset might have thought to put a bit of tact behind her next words, but she wasn't, and therefore she didn't. And so, when she rounded the corner from the kitchen to the living room, she took a deep breath and said,
Pretty damn late, huh?
Twilight, sitting cross-legged on the floor in the dark. It's kind of cute, actually. Crisscross applesauce. Twilight, sitting cross-legged on the floor in the dark, nodded. Mm-hmm. She hummed. She hummed. The light from her bedroom was the only reason Sunset noticed the motion. It illuminated the curve of her spine and the dip of her shoulders and the way her long, long hair spilled down her turned-away back. For some people, perhaps. I feel that, man.
Hey. Get her, Twilight.
She didn't turn around. Sunset narrowed her eyes.
Rude.
She wanted to retort, but stopped herself.
Working on something important?
She asked instead. Mm-hmm. A pause.
In the living room.
Something metal clattered to the floor. Twilight straightened up a little when it did. Mm-hmm, she repeated, and this time the Sunset caught a hint of glee within her voice. It's much harder to misplace things on hardwood, see? She tilted her head backward until her bangs slid off her forehead, and her face caught the hallway light. The same light that had finally snuck past her shoulders to brighten the floor in front of her. Her gaze locked with Sunset's upside down, and it was only then that Sunset noticed two terribly strange things. First of all, Twilight Sparkle was dead, and second, Twilight Sparkle was a zombie. I'm kidding, neither of those things were a thing. First, that Twilight Sparkle wasn't wearing her glasses. And second, that the disassembled corpse of an expensive-looking... Oh, my God. I was about to be like, Jesus Christ. Oh, it's just an alarm clock. It's just an alarm clock. Okay.
Much harder to misplace things on hardwood as she, takes out the organs.
It's fucked up. And second, that the disassembled corpse of an expensive-looking alarm clock lay strewn across her lap.
What the fuck are you doing?
Jesus Christ, Wizzy.
Oh,
Calm
sorry.
down.
She didn't actually say that. She just said, "What are you doing?" And I added it.
No, she said, what the fuck are you doing? But Wizzy sounds so angry right now. Sunset blurted out. In that moment, a tiny bit of concern spiked at the back of her mind, because, if she ever had any reason to not mind her own business, it was definitely going to be in a scenario when she had a roommate smart enough to build some sort of bomb.
I like to know that, for sure, Sunset never swore in the original show, but I also do know that her character was one who, definitely would.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Oh my gosh, we should do, Equestria Girls swearing tier list. Who's the most likely to swear? Who swears regularly? Who swears when they need to? Who only swears once or twice? Maybe a year? You know, that sort of thing.
Lemon Zest swears all the time because she wants to sound more adult than she is. That's my theory.
That's a good theory.
That's not a fire hazard, right?
Of course not. Twilight replied immediately. She sounded almost offended at the accusation. Ice bombs do not cause fires, you idiot. I just want to know how it works. What makes it work? She picked up a screw between two fingers and held it up above her head to catch the light. Don't you have any sort of curiosity left in you, Sunset? Okay, that's weird. That's a bit weird. I would think that Sci-Fi would know what a frickin' clock, how that works. I know how that works.
Well, you know how it works.
Tell me that Genius McGee over here doesn't.
Pulling apart the parts of it is different than just knowing how it works intuitively.
Okay, Dr. Manhattan.
It's
That's
interesting
a Watchmen
for some
reference.
people. I just really like people with quirky hobbies.
It's a multi-layered Watchmen reference, actually. Wow, I'm good.
You say Dr. Manhattan?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Is that a thing?
No.
That should be a thing.
Dr. Manhattan is a thing, but Manhattan, not so much. If only.
Yeah, I was thinking like a pony version of Dr. Manhattan.
Don't you have any sort of curiosity left in you, Sunset? She'd used her name for the first time then, But for some reason, the sound of her name in Twilight's voice made Sunset's insides twist with unease.
Of course I do.
She said slowly, carefully. Well, great. Go join her then, Sunset. Good buddy bonding. Good old roommate bonding. That'll be fun.
But I wouldn't destroy something to find out what I could just look up online. Hey, it's what Ross was saying.
Well then. But that's not fun. So what was he saying?
At this point in my life, I think I'd rather have a functional alarm clock than fun. I mean, she has a phone, probably.
Yeah. Idiot. True. Twilight said, and lowered the screw. You do seem to need one, don't you?
Ouch.
Sunset winced. There went what little hope she had of Twilight forgetting their disastrous introduction. And she was never going to live it down, was she? Damn, though, Sunset, you got, man. Jeez Louise.
Like, she has to laugh about that. You gotta laugh that off.
Honestly, I would be like, thank God you're finally actually saying something to me, you weirdo.
Like, she's joking about the situation. It's sort of like an invitation. You know, like a friendly thing.
Yeah.
You have to take it that way.
Twilight wants to kill you.
Otherwise, it's that.
But before she could reply, Twilight shrugged her shoulders and returned her focus to the alarm clock. Her face obscured and her back toward Sunset once again. I suppose I can count myself lucky in that regard. Another screw hit the hardwood. Sunset wrinkled her nose.
Lucky? What?
That I don't need one. Dumbass.
Ooh!
Something plastic popped. Something plastic popped. Something plastic popped. Let me just get off this pop filter. Okay, anyways.
Oh my god.
Something plastic popped. An alarm clock, I mean.
Right.
If she were less tired, Sunset probably would have followed up on what the fuck she meant by that. But it was still past midnight. And she still had class tomorrow. Today.
Well, good luck with whatever this is. I'm going back to bed.
You see, that's the roommate experience. Twilight nodded again. Sure.
Good night, Twilight.
With those last two words still hanging in the air, Sunset turned on her heel to head back down the hall, just as a heavy crash rang out from the living room and rippled through the floorboards beneath her feet. Wait, Twilight said from behind her. Wait. Sunset turned around in time to see Twilight push herself to her feet. Her movements were jerky, stilted. The alarm clock lay discarded on its side. Now that it was in direct light instead of Twilight's shadow, Sunset could clearly see a large crack splintered across its face. And she saw not just that, but also the way her roommate's eyes were wild and that her sleeves were haphazardly shoved up her elbows and that she didn't have a screwdriver or anything held in her trembling hands. What did you say? Twilight whispered. Sunset resisted the urge to take a step back.
I just said good night.
No, I mean, exactly. Repeat what you said.
What?
The words. The words you used, Sunset.
All I said was good night. I'm not trying to...
Sunset!
Twilight!
She hissed back, a horrible unease running rampant through her gut.
What the fuck is wrong with...
Oh! Twilight interrupted suddenly. Sunset could almost see the gears turning in her mind through the windows of her manic eyes. You're... Oh.
What is going on?
And then a terrible smile twisted its way across her lips, and Twilight Sparkle laughed. Oh, sorry. I just thinking about this really funny joke that I heard. Good times. All right. Good night. Ba-da-ba.
Oh, Twilight.
Anyways, I was gonna say something there. I guess not. All right. Continuing the story. Oh yeah, maybe it has something to do with time travel, or maybe it just has something to do with the fact that Twilight Sparkle was a demon at one point, and maybe Demon Twilight Sparkle doesn't need sleep. Who knows? Equestria Girls 3 was wild.
Maybe this demon doesn't even know it looks like Twilight Sparkle.
Because also, the demon form of Twilight, or Sci-Twi specifically, is called Midnight Sparkle. And it's called something about midnights. I was wondering if you were going to catch that a bit. But also, I think Midnight Sparkle is also in the tags for the thing. So,
I had missed that.
Which I had made a point of reading earlier. So, yeah, just now putting 2 and 2 together on that one. Good job, me. The midnight encounter must have changed something between them, because the next morning, when Sunset got up, she nearly tripped over herself at the sight of Twilight still sitting on the floor of their living room. Great, they're more comfortable around each other. This is awesome.
Yay!
But things were a little different from 6 hours ago. Clean and not disheveled clothes, her hair pulled into a ponytail, glasses, and 2 streaming cups of coffee perched on the aptly named coffee table beside her. Oh, that's why they call it. Oh, that's clever. That's clever.
I thought it was called that because it was colored like coffee.
I'll be honest. My whole life, I thought it was called that coffee was named after a coffee table. It's a joke. That's just a dumb joke. Sometimes I legitimately just try to gaslight Wizzy. Speaking of, I remember what I was going to say earlier. Imagine if you just decided to fuck with your roommate like that. It would be a really fucked up thing to do, but wouldn't it be fun?
How?
Just like, do whatever the fuck Twilight's been doing. You know?
Just act really shifty around them.
It's like, your roommate says goodnight, and you're like, say that again. Say exactly what you just said. Fun. You would be an absolute horrible person.
Timeline. What?
You would be an absolute horrible person. You meaning the general you, anyone who did that would probably be. Like, going to the extent of what I'm picturing at least, that would be awful. But really funny.
Don't stop even after they call the cops.
Yep.
We can't do anything. They don't seem to be doing anything illegal.
Like one of those guys who claims they're from a different country and in the future. Remember that? Yeah. She was still working on the alarm clock, but this time she had a toolbox in front of her and a screwdriver in her hand. Clever. She's getting aware. She's becoming aware. When she noticed Sunset, she glanced up over the frames of her glasses and forced a smile. Hey!
Hey,
Sunset echoed. I made extra coffee, she said, her voice steady but still a bit nervous. If you drink it, I mean.
Oh, yeah, I do. Thanks.
Good. I was worried you were one of those Mormon freaks.
Whoa!
I could say that I'm Mormon. A heavy silence followed in Sunset's footsteps when she crossed the room to take the mug. I'd be wary of that mug, by the way. She stole a quick glance at the alarm clock before she headed to the kitchen. Then stopped dead in her tracks.
Wait,
she said, confused.
You're putting it back together already?
Twilight paused mid-twist. Yeah?
But then why did you want to take it apart in the first place?
I didn't. Okay. There are 2 different Twilight Sparkles. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
She turns into it at midnight.
Yeah. Oh, this is smart. I like this. Okay. I'm following you now. Okay, we're good. She grumbled and turned the screwdriver so hard that something cracked. Sunset didn't bother asking any more questions after that. Just like, how's your day going, man? See any good movies lately?
Like, there's the good Twilight. Interact with her.
Yeah, come on, man. They fell into a different sort of routine after that. Still similar enough for familiarity, but different enough for Sunset to tear the schedule she had made out of her notebook and crumple it in the trash. She didn't live with a ghost anymore. After all, ghosts didn't study at the kitchen table or burn instant noodles or leave extra cups of coffee on the counter before they left for class. They're fucking weird, aren't they? But they're not, like, too mysterious to not burn instant noodles, you know?
Who?
Twilight here.
Ghosts?
No, Twilight.
Oh.
I should have said she, but, you know.
You don't know their pronouns. Maybe there's multiple Twilights and multiple pronouns.
Oh, good point. I win. Yeah, Twilight is just human enough that I'm like, maybe this is Twilight. And not, maybe this is like a demon who's trying to do demon things. For some fucking reason. It was a different sort of routine and not a bad one. Even with all the strangeness that came with knowing Twilight Sparkle. Whatever had happened that one night hadn't come up again, and given Twilight's reaction the morning after, Sunset really wasn't willing to bring it up on purpose. If it came up, it came up, and if it didn't, then it wasn't meant to be. She was perfectly fine leaving their weird, symbiotic relationship the way it was. At least, until incident number 2. Sunset hadn't meant to fall asleep, but the readings were so boring and the couch was so comfortable, and if she propped her binder up on her stomach, she could still read the required chapters through half-closed eyelids. That's the smart way to do it. The next time she blinked her eyes open, the living room was dark. Her binder lay flat across the tops of her thighs. Her neck was a little stiff from the too poofy couch cushion under her head. She blinked again. There was a figure perched on the opposite armrest of the couch. That is scary. No. I thought we got done with the fucking horror stories. I mean, I guess this always kind of looked like a horror story, but still. She wanted to yelp when her heart leaped into her throat. In her half-asleep haze, it came out more like a grunt. Let's hear it, Wizzy. Yeah.
Grunt.
The one and only figure tilted her head to the side. Sunset's eyes eventually adjusted further, and when her heartbeat steadied, she rasped out.
What the fuck, Twilight?
Twilight grinned. Hi, Sunset. She wasn't wearing her glasses. Oh, this is dark Twilight. And hear me out, it is both Twilight Sparkles. Both Sci-Twi and regular Princess Twilight Sparkle.
And she just, like, breaks in.
Yeah, because regular Princess Twilight Sparkle doesn't have the glasses. Did we mention that earlier? We might have.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, I remember that, because she's a horse.
Yeah, horses don't wear glasses. Except for when they do.
Well, I guess, like, some of the horses do in My Little Pony.
But I'll tell you who doesn't. Twilight Sparkle. She has contacts. She doesn't.
The hell are you doing?
Watching. As if that wasn't creepy enough of an answer on its own, she drew her knees closer to her chest and leaned so far forward that Sunset was worried she'd topple on top of her. What's it like?
What?
Sleeping, I mean.
Uh-huh.
Sunset rolled her eyes and let herself relax back into the couch. Thanks to her impromptu jump scare, though, the urge to sleep had left her. I'm being serious, you know, Twilight said, matter-of-factly. What's it like? The big blue? What's it like? Sunset swallowed a scream and scrunched her eyes shut.
How about you go to bed and find out for yourself?
Silence. With her eyes closed, Sunset could almost pretend her weird roommate wasn't balanced cat-like on the couch to watch her sleep. Then, I've obviously already tried that. Twilight clicked her tongue. It sounded like disappointment in an aloof sort of way.
Try counting sheep,
Sunset said. Sunset groggily kicked her legs until her binder hit the floor, then rolled over onto her stomach and exhaled a sigh.
Or warm milk, or melatonin, or hell, if you're crazy, you could live off of energy drinks for a week straight, and then wait for them to wear off. But that'd knock you right out.
And again, I've obviously already tried that, she repeated.
Oh, poor Twilight's body.
Yeah. No wonder she's so skinny. That's rude, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that, Twilight. I didn't mean it. Well, I didn't mean it like that. Sure, your body's great. And again, I've obviously already tried that, she repeated. The couch lifted a bit as she hopped off. When she landed, somehow she was so balanced that she hardly made a sound.
Good night, Twilight,
Sunset mumbled, instead of bothering to form a response. Twilight clicked her tongue again. This time it was irritation and exhilaration, all wrapped up as one. Good night, Sunset. The sound of her socked footsteps padded back down the hall, and eventually Sunset fell back asleep to the tune of Twilight's keyboard echoing against her skull. Click, clack, click, clack, is how it sounds. If the first living room incident had added fuel to the Sunset's curiosity, the second only served to douse it entirely in gasoline. She was determined now. She knew that everyone had to sleep, because everyone did. Even neurotic night owls named Twilight Sparkle. Right? Well,
it'd be impossible for her to still be here if she didn't.
Sunset reasoned to herself with a scowl. Plus, it wasn't like she was omniscient. Maybe Twilight just crashed at a friend's house during the day to make up for her all-nighters or something.
A friend?
She rolled her eyes.
Good one, Sunset. Hilarious.
You'd be surprised.
Princess of Friendship, come on.
It felt a bit mean to think it, but as far as she could tell, it was the truth. Twilight Sparkle couldn't possibly have a social life. Uh-huh, sure, buddy. Not with her lack of any social media profiles and her tendency to shut herself in her room alone all weekend.
Maybe she's recording a podcast with her friend, Sunset.
It's not something you know, Wizzy. You would know the feeling of Wizzy. I'm trying to say that we're not friends, but it's not coming across well. Anyways.
I was confused. I thought you were like saying something about me like not recording on the weekends, but I was like, what day is it? What day is it, huh?
Saturday. Wait, I don't know why I'm sounding sad about that. I know what day it is. I wasn't even saying that. Anyways.
Yeah.
Not with her lack of any social media profiles and her tendency to shut herself in her room alone all weekend. Even if her school schedule had minimal and optimally timed classes, there was no way she'd have the time to meet with anyone for more than a few hours during the day.
But it's not like I'm one to talk either.
That was too depressing to think about for too long, though. So Sunset shook that train of thought from her head and leaned further back in her chair. She glanced over her preparations one last time. A case of energy drinks under her desk, snacks and napkins piled on her bed. Her PC powered on, and a single earbud in to make sure she still had an ear free for her.
Literally picturing this as like a lo-fi girl version of Sunset.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh. Lo-fi girl Sunset, wouldn't that be perfect? I'm sure there's a piece of fan art like that.
There has to be like a video on YouTube that's like an hour of pony songs to lo-fi jam out to.
Well, that's just something we're going to have to look up for the music in this episode. Not really.
Ooh, we're going to steal it.
I mean,
it's not like the lo-fi thing isn't stealing the music anyway.
It's not like we aren't stealing things already.
Ooh, you got a point.
Go check out the fan fiction for yourselves. Just because she was determined for now. Because she was determined now. And this was the weekend she was finally going to figure out when Twilight Sparkle slept. I don't know why I said it like that. 11 hours.
Because she's determined.
11 hours. That was how long it took before the sound of Twilight's keyboard stopped for good. For good. She'd been at it since before Sunset had even gotten home from her Friday afternoon class, which, granted, had been a little later than normal since she'd had to stop at the dollar store, and the incessant click-clack that Sunset had grown so accustomed to accompanied her games throughout the night. But now it was just after 4 in the morning, and now the house was silent. Wait, this is a house? How can you afford a house?
There's no way.
Sunset thought. Her hands moved on autopilot as her free ear strained to listen. Right click, keyboard. Right click again. She heard water rush through the pipes behind the walls. Footsteps pulsed faintly through the floor across the hallway, followed by the near-silent rumble of dresser drawers opening and sliding shut. She heard the click of a light switch.
There's no fucking way.
Even as it happened, Sunset didn't dare believe in it. And, as she listened, a looming sort of dread descended upon her, and an uncomfortable thought began to rise at the back of her mind. This was the latest she'd ever forced herself to remain awake since Twilight had moved in. Had the simplest and most obvious answer just been there in her face all along? Sunset had looked into it a little bit, not a lot, and not more than a quick skim through the first handful of websites to pop up. But she'd at least explored the topic more than the average person, of the genes some lucky people inherited that allowed them to function with very little sleep. God, I wish I had that. And sure, it made a lot of sense. The evidence supported it, and the diagnosis lined up with reality in a way not ever sleeping didn't. She'd brushed it off, though. Good genetics didn't explain why Twilight Sparkle disassembled and reassembled alarm clocks in the living room, or liked watching people while they slept. She's a fucking weirdo. That's it. But sitting there in her desk chair that Friday night, with far too much caffeine buzzing in her veins, Sunset so desperately wanted the obvious answer to be wrong.
Because there's no way. Because there's definitely something else going on. Because I refuse to admit I may have turned this into something bigger than it was.
She stopped herself again before she got too far. This is what she wanted, wasn't it? Proof? She had proof now. The one and only Twilight Sparkle was mortal, just like everyone else on Earth. The silence lasted all of 5 minutes before her light clicked back on, and her drawers opened and shut, and her keyboard click-clacked, and she wouldn't ever sleep. And with so much caffeine in her system and fury in her blood, Sunset soon found out that neither could she. very scary. Oh, never mind. It's not actually a scary thing. Time marched on. The school term ticked by like clockwork. Sunset hated giving up, and not just on the mystery of the one and only Twilight Sparkle, but on anything. But with no proof and no leads, she really had no other choice. Man, what if Sunset just becomes a fucking just horrible wreck and this absolutely destroys her life in every conceivable way?
God.
Just this one kind of weird person.
That's exactly what Midnight Sparkle would do.
Yeah, kind of.
She's slowly torturing her like that.
Pretty sure that's also what happens in the beginner's guide. Anyways, slight-ish spoilers for the beginner's guide, I guess. But, not really. Her disastrous dead end of an all-nighter had smothered what little remained of her sanity, and with her grades hanging precariously in the balance, she knew she couldn't push it any further. It wasn't worth it. Not with her tuition, at least. So she swallowed her pride and studied in the living room and taught Twilight how to use the stove hood, and gladly accepted every extra cup of coffee sent her way. She swallowed her pride and gave up. But, of course, the universe had a sick sense of humor. Ah, this person's British. Or just not American. Look at the way they said humor.
Oh, maybe we should stop?
Maybe. And of course, as soon as Sunset gave up, all the answers she'd been looking for just dropped right into her lap.
Glad you're not so much of a fire hazard anymore,
She said one evening while they made their dinners shoulder to shoulder, in their tiny kitchen. Partly to break the weird tension between them, and partly because it was true.
It even smells edible this time.
Very funny, Twilight replied. She finished peeling her eggs and tossed it into the saucepan with her instant noodles. You're one to talk, she added, and raised her eyebrows at Sunset.
She just putting a hard-boiled egg in her ramen?
Sure.
She going fancy?
College kids.
Sorry, it just sounds so good right now.
You're one to talk, she added, and raised her eyebrows at Sunset's more than shameless dinner in the microwave. Pop-Tarts? Really? Hey, I had Pop-Tarts earlier today. They weren't even popped, and they were just fine. I was running a bit late to, work.
What's wrong with dessert?
Generally, nothing. Right now, where do I begin?
I'll make something else later.
Sunset half lied, half because she was going to get hungry again in a few hours, and it was going to be for another pack of Pop-Tarts. The microwave finally beeped. She grabbed her plate from the microwave before Twilight could judge her further, and scooted around.
What? Microwave? That's not where you put Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, but I'm guessing since they're, let's face it, they're college kids, they don't have a toaster. She grabbed her plate from the microwave before Twilight could judge her further, and scooted around behind her to go back to her room. Even though she could see Twilight's face while she passed her, Sunset could still hear the eye roll in her voice. Enjoy your dinner.
Oh, you bet I'm gonna enjoy.
Her hip collided with the edge of the oven as she turned the corner. Oh, God, no, why? The plate flew out of her hand, and then Twilight, grabs her before she falls and then does the Spider-Man thing from the first Sam Raimi movie. you know that one. Good catch. Or whatever the hell Mary Jane says.
Shit!
Sunset swore, but it was too late for even curses, because by the time she caught her Pop-Tarts with her eyes, They were flipping and flying and falling frosting side down to the floor. And then suddenly, they weren't. What? A bright pink orb.
Spider-Man?
Yes, Spider-Man came to save the day. A bright pink aura burst to life around everything a split second before it hit the ground, enveloping both the plate and its contents and freezing it all midair.
What?
I might have been right. Sunset blinked once, twice, a third time, just to be safe. Nothing changed. Her plate and her Pop-Tarts were still forking floating. I don't want to swear.
You can't just do that.
Her plate and her Pop-Tarts, we just completely switched roles from how we were at the beginning of this podcast. I am trying to stop swearing so much.
Yeah,
It's really difficult, and stuff like this is not making it easier. Frick it. Her plate and her Pop-Tarts were still fucking floating. And once that imagery finally processed from Sunset's incredulous eyes to her brain, she stumbled back a step and spun around to make sure that Twilight was seeing the same unbelievable, impossible sight. Oh, Twilight breathed. One hand extended out in front of her like she'd reflexively tried to catch something she'd dropped. Or maybe Sunset realized with dawning dread.
Something I dropped. Oh, eye drop. Like,
yeah.
the medicine?
Yeah. We're both on the same wavelength here. Pink light winked out from her fingertips. Sunset heard a plate clatter against the floor. Right, Twilight said, and quickly turned off the stovetop burner. Right, I'm just gonna...
What the fuck?
Sunset whispered.
What the fuck?
Go eat now. It was great chatting with you, really.
What the fuck was that?
But I have a lot of stuff to work on, and even more things to stress about, and maybe also freak out about a little bit. So, she grabbed her saucepan and practically bolted past Sunset and back down the hall. Bye! Added a little whizzy there.
That is not whizzy.
That's so whizzy. Have you heard yourself?
No, I say that specifically because it's like a queer thing.
Such a whizzy thing. Her door slammed. A few seconds later, the click-clack of her keyboard began to jackhammer at a record-breaking pace. Sunset stared after her, too shell-shocked and speechless to dare try and move to follow. Eventually, though, she dared glance down. There on the kitchen floor sat her sorry excuse for a dinner, frosty intact, and carefully stacked in the center of an unbroken plate. How kind of Twilight. That's so sweet of her. Twilight isn't some freak. Twilight isn't a monster. She's just... What's the worst thing Twilight's done, actually, in this story? Kind of broken alarm
she
clock, I
disassembled
guess.
a corpse.
Oh, we kind of went for the same thing there, I guess.
Yeah, I was hoping that she was going to catch the Pop-Tart, but at first I thought she let it fall.
Yeah, thankfully she didn't. She's a kind soul.
She's in love.
Ooh. No answer to knocks on her door. Text messages left on read. You guys text? Curtains drawn tight, Sunset had gone outside to check, and the constant sounds of typing echoing against her walls. At least you know she's still there. But Sunset wasn't giving up this time. Not this time. And so, once all other avenues failed, she grabbed her phone charger, plugged it into the hallway outlet, and planted herself on the floor square across from Twilight's room. It was two birds with one stone, she reasoned. This way, she had internet access at the same time she made sure her one and only roommate had no possible way to escape. Internet access for finding answers, blocking escape routes to stop the only person who could answer from running away. She tried to start sane in hour one. Hallucinations, brain tumors, mental breaks, and all the like. But Hour 2 quickly unraveled to the impossible, with levitation and paranormal activity and unexplained phenomena and magic and ghosts, and then Hour 3 degraded into a downward, deranged spiral, little more than a stream of consciousness vomited directly into her phone.
Roommate doesn't sleep because she's alien? How to tell if roommate is alien? How to tell if roommate is wizard? Is magic real? How to tell if roommate can do magic? Does the government know about magic? Am I having a mental break?
Yep.
Hospital near me. Hospital near me 24/7. Twilight Sparkle Snapgap. Twilight Sparkle High School. Sparkle surname relatives. Sparkle surname meaning. Twilight Sparkle Levitation Magic Supernatural Incanterlot.
My God.
Poor
If Twilight just
Sunset.
told her. Twilight, you asshole. You
Right?
know, the question from earlier, what's the worst thing Twilight said? This is the worst thing. Her constant just desire to not tell Sunset a thing has led to this poor woman having a mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
She almost missed it. She'd already deleted the search and moved to type in her next thought, but the title of the top article caught her attention just in time. Canterlot High School under scrutiny. Second destructive incident again attributed to the supernatural. The article was more than a year old, and its publisher wasn't exactly a site Sunset recognized as reputable, but fuck if she wasn't desperate. It was the first result. Didn't that mean anything anymore? No. If you're typing it on Google, no, absolutely not, no. But Bing. If you're typing it on Bing, yes, this is very.
You really like Bing, huh?
Well, from what I know, maybe it was Yahoo. I don't know. I don't think Bing has the first results being people who paid for it, but I could be totally wrong. That might just be a boomer thing.
I use DuckDuckGo.
That is the safe option.
They actually get their results from Bing, so.
Huh.
But they don't have all the trackers.
Yeah, that's the safe option. She clicked the link. What little hope she mustered drained almost immediately. The author's grammar was atrocious. The web page's article-to-ad ratio was borderline malicious. She skimmed the first paragraph. Nothing. She closed a pop-up. Nothing. Frustrated, she scrolled down to the bottom of this page as fast as she could to try and find the author's email so she could send them a few choice words and maybe sign them for some mailing lists while she was at it. Oof. But also, what if Twilight Sparkle's been up all night, constantly, because she's trying to get rid of any evidence of the Canterlot High incidents?
Oh, God. She feels so guilty.
Midnight Sparkle. Sunset immediately scrolled back up and read. But a reading just served to confuse her even more. Terrible grammar notwithstanding, because the article talked of magic and portals in some parallel dimension called Equestria before moving on to property damage and a school sporting event, all in a single breath. That is...
AI generated, oh no.
That is exactly how I describe these films to Izzy. The abnormal reported as normally as it had ever had the right to be. She scrolled to the bottom of the page. There were pictures.
Oh.
Sunset realized and nearly dropped her phone.
It's her.
It's me. She had wings and a horn and blue fire around her eyes, but even in the out-of-focus photo, Sunset could see no one else but Twilight. Her too long hair and too wide eyes, and that distinctive, manic grin. It was her, and only her. She flipped to the next picture.
Oh.
It was a faraway shot of a girl in a school uniform holding some sort of clamshell device between her hands and facing something off frame with a terrified yet determined expression. She'd pulled her hair up in a bun like Twilight sometimes did. She wore glasses like Twilight always did. Not always. She was the one and only Twilight Sparkle, and no one else. Sunset stared at the photo a moment longer and tried to connect what little dots she could. Then she ever so slowly craned her neck up until she was staring directly at Twilight's door. I thought for a second that said Twilight was staring directly at her, and I was about to freak out. She swallowed hard, checked the time, barely past 1, stood up, knocked. Instantly, the keyboard inside stopped.
Hey,
She breathed, barely louder than a whisper.
can we talk now?
No response. Not even a single click.
'Cause I don't know about you, but I'm really freaked out. Really, really.
Still no response. Sunset knocked one more time.
Please, I think I've finally found something, but it's only freaking me out more than I already was. I promise I'm not mad at you or weirded out. Well, okay, I'm very weirded out, but I promise it's not you. So if we could just talk about this.
The door swung away from her knuckles before she could finish. Interesting, said Twilight, who, in that moment, with her hair down and without her glasses, looked more like the person from the first photo than herself. She tilted her head to the side and stared up at Sunset, with bored eyes that said anything but, "Go on." Sunset fumbled for her phone, then held it out.
Is this you? In the picture. This is you, right?
Twilight repeated and leaned in. A second later, she leaned back out. Nope.
God
Damn
evil.
it. I hate you, Twilight. I hate you. This is why Princess Twilight Sparkle is better.
What?
Not me.
What the hell do you mean?
And Sunset couldn't restrain her anger at that point. An uncontrollable mix of fear and frustration and something more than that. She shoved the phone closer and snapped.
That has to be you. You look exactly the same.
Yeah, in this world, if you look exactly the same, it's probably you. Probably is the exact... Wait, no, actually, I just realized there are parallel dimensions that people could come through and look exactly like you, so never mind, I'm an idiot. But still, it is Saitwai. Twilight rolled her eyes and nudged the phone out of her face with a fingertip. "It's not me," she said, slowly, patiently. "Because that's Twilight, idiot. Oh, fuck." Sunset froze.
What?
The silence between them was as loud as the day they'd met. Good callback. But the girl staring back from her made no move to say anything else. And, once again, it was up to Sunset to shatter it.
You're talking like you aren't her.
She couldn't stop disbelief from drenching her words.
Wait.
"And you're talking like you aren't her." "Not," Twilight replied. She turned Sunset's phone back toward her and jabbed a finger at its screen. The photos must have cycled through the carousel automatically, Sunset realized, because instead of the picture that was surely Twilight, a third and different image had appeared. The vaguely visible silhouettes of two figures suspended in a beam of pure white light. She zoomed in. A pause. Then... thunk! This time, she really did drop her phone. And while Sunset's world shattered to impossible pieces around her, Not Twilight's lips twisted into her signature grin, then parted to make way for the same chilling laugh Sunset had heard during their first encounter in the living room that she now knew wasn't Twilight, but with her. Because her roommate may have been the one and only Twilight Sparkle, but she wasn't sure she was the only Sunset Shimmer anymore. Author's note. Bit of a weirder fic I've been working on for a while. Preconception is a fun thing with fanfic, and I wanted to see if I could do something that played with it as a narrative. I hope you enjoyed it, even if it doesn't set out to answer every question you might have asked. So here's the thing.
What?
Dope as that story
Happened.
was, I fucking love that story. And to me, as an Equestria Girls fan, it makes complete, perfect sense-ish. But as someone who really wanted that to continue, I hate it. God damn you, Evilily.
I'm confused.
That's okay, Wizzy. It's fine. You can be confused for a second. That was something about Midnights.
Wait. So the two figures in the beam of light, that was when Sunset turned into, like, Daylight Babe Girl or whatever,
Yes.
and she was fighting Midnight Sparkle.
Precisely.
Okay. So then this version of Twilight went into a different school?
No. Well, this version of Twilight is the same one from the Equestria Girls universe. It just so happens that you asking that coincides with it, because this version of Twilight definitely did go to another school as a Crystal Prep, but they came to Candlelight High to do the Equestria Games. And that's when Twilight grabbed her the magic from Sunset, or the magic from all the magical kiddos around the school, and turned into Midnight Sparkle. And then Sunset turned into Daylight Shimmer, Day Magic Girl Shimmer, and then those two battled it out. But I think, now here's the one thing. I guess Midnight Sparkle and Twilight Sparkle are like a Jekyll and Hyde sort of situation. That seems to be what it is. But we never really get that in show proper. So that's the only thing that I'm having a bit of difficulty about.
Okay. So in this version, Sunset is like a weird version of herself that doesn't even remember the events of that stuff.
This Sunset is from this world, from what I can tell.
Oh, right. I forgot.
because-
Sunset's origins was that she was from Equestria.
Precisely. But
Dang. I do like the acknowledgement that Midnight Sparkle could exist for Equestria Twilight as well. Because imagine how awesome that would be.
that would be dope. And frankly, it could happen. Midnight Sparkle is basically just her Nightmare Moon or Daybreaker, you know?
What if we read a fic about it?
Oh, we absolutely will at some point. And frankly, I'm gearing up to.
Yes.
I want an entire, next 50 episodes, let's just do an entire, dark arc for everybody. Just, real dark stuff for people. No comedy fic. Sorry, Wizzy.
What if Spike didn't want to eat his vegetables?
Oh, Spike doesn't eat its vegetables already.
Yeah, he's only eating jewels or something.
Diamonds, gems, and yada yada. God, okay, so actually talking about the story. God, I love this. I love this story a lot, but as I've said before, I really wanted to see more. I wanted to get more of Sunset, I guess, going completely insane.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe she does go to a hospital. Maybe she gets she tries to convince other people and no one believes her.
Oh yeah, totally. How do you react to something like that? And if it is Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing, what the fuck do you do? What the fuck does Twilight say after that? Normal Twilight, not Midnight Sparkle. But oh man, this has so many possibilities of continuing, and I am absolutely begging for you to continue this evilly in some way, shape, or form. Maybe make a fic too long for us to read. I don't care. I just want more of this. God damn it.
Have you checked to see if they've made?
Yeah, I did. Don't think so.
Okay.
So yeah. This is running long, so thank you so much, everybody, for watching, listening, yada yada. I have been your host, Ross Pitch Shark Hunter. This has been your other host, Wizzy Puff.
Remember to eat your vegetables.
All right, yes. Remember to eat your vegetables, kids. And if you don't, Midnight Sparkle will come for you.
After the 100th episode, I'm gonna change my catchphrase from my like outro thing from Bye. It's gonna be something like "Eat your vegetables."
It's gonna be gay.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Baka.
What'd you call me?
Baka. It means potato in French.
You can't trick me. I know the word for potato in French because it's so frickin' cool.
Really? What is it? Store Blaster.
Pomme de terre. I remembered.
Damn, why'd I have to go with
means
French?
Apple of the earth.
I could have done Dutch. You definitely don't know the word for potato in Dutch. It's just potato, by the way.
Sudaklosen? I think I know Dutch. Okay.
Wizzy is surprisingly multilingual.
I completely made that up.
Yeah, but you made it sound like you knew what you were talking about, so I would have been impressed one way or the other.
Yes.